The Sony A80K OLED is one of two entry-level OLEDs in Sony's 2022 lineup. It sits behind the Sony A80K OLED and the key-OLED Sony A85K OLED, and in Europe, it sits ahead of the Sony A75K. It replaces the Sony A80J OLED from 2021, and it's largely unchanged from its predecessor. It uses the same cognitive processor XR, and it has many of the same features like the HDMI 2.1 bandwidth, variable refresh rate, VRR support, and the S-Center speaker input to use the TV speakers as a center channel when connecting a compatible Sony soundbar. It also uses the same Google TV Smart platform, and like its predecessor, it's available in 55-inch, 65-inch, and 77-inch models. The Sony A80K is excellent for most uses. It performs best in dark rooms while watching movies because it displays deep blacks without any blooming in dark scenes. It's excellent for HDR because of that dark room performance and the fact that it displays a wide range of colors. But its HDR brightness isn't high enough for the best HDR experience. It's great for watching TV shows and excellent for sports in well-lit rooms thanks to its wide viewing angle and incredible reflection handling. But it doesn't get bright enough to fight a ton of glare. Lastly, it's fantastic for gaming as it has variable refresh rate, VRR support with HDMI 2.1 bandwidth, a quick response time, and low input lag. Differences between sizes and variants. We tested the 65-inch Sony A80K, and the results are also valid for the 55 and 75-inch models. It's also known as the A80CK at Costco, and it's the same TV, but the only difference is that it comes with a backlit remote, a 3-year warranty, and a 2-year subscription to the Bravia Core streaming service. In Europe, there's both the Sony A80K and the Sony A84K, and while both TV perform like the North American A80K, the European A84K is the closest equivalent because it has a built-in mic like the North American version. Compared to other TV, the Sony A80K is an excellent TV with deep blacks, perfect black uniformity, and great gaming features. However, it's disappointing considering it's a downgrade in a few areas compared to the Sony A80J OLED. Like the peak brightness, it doesn't match up to the brighter OLEDs that are coming out in 2022. And if you want the best OLED for picture quality, you can find other options. Stand. The Sony A80K has metal feet that support the screen very well, and there's minimal wobble. Like some other Sony TV, it has 3 different stand positions: a narrow position if you have a small table, a wide position if you want minimal space between the screen and the table, and a high position if you want to place a soundbar in front without blocking the screen. You can see the dimensions of the 65-inch TV. The back of the Sony A80K is entirely plastic, and there's a cover for cable management. But otherwise, it doesn't have clips to route your cables to the inputs, as the inputs are side-facing. They are hard to reach with the TV wall mounted and nearly impossible to get to if you mount it with the cover on. Build quality. The Sony A80K has fantastic build quality. The stand supports the TV very well, and there aren't any quality control issues as the panel is attached to the back properly, and the cable management cover also stays in place. There's a bit of flex on the back panel, but it isn't a major concern. However, overall it doesn't feel as good as the Sony A80J OLED because there's less metal, and the plastic doesn't feel as good. Unfortunately, our unit sustained some damage during shipping with a scratch on the back and a bent bottom bezel. However, we don't suspect it's a common problem, and it doesn't affect the TV performance. Because of this, the damage doesn't impact the build quality score. SDR brightness. The Sony A80K's SDR peak brightness is just okay, and it's a bit disappointing as it isn't as bright as other 2022 OLEDs like the LG C2 OLED, and it doesn't get bright enough to fight a ton of glare. It gets brightest after a full calibration as it only reaches a peak of 399 CD/M2 in the 2% window before calibration. It also has an aggressive automatic brightness limiter that makes larger areas dimmer, which isn't ideal if you use it as a PC monitor or watch sports like hockey. We tested it again in an air-conditioned room at above 73 F, 23 C, and it didn't change the brightest results in the individual windows compared to our original testing. However, we measured the real scene brightness after letting the TV cool down enough following the peak brightness, and this resulted in an increased brightness of nearly 20 nits, which isn't a significant difference. But cooling the display down a bit lets it get brighter. The results are in the custom picture mode after calibration with the brightness at its max, contrast at its default of 90, color temperature set to expert 1, and the peak luminance on high. Gamma was also on 0, and setting it to 2 provides a brightness of 315 nits. Setting peak luminance to high helps gets this TV brighter, as disabling it results in a much dimmer image. But there isn't much variation between different scenes. We are going to end this video right away. If you have any query or information to share, please leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.